Good evening and welcome to this week's edition of the Gallant Few English Premier League Roundup. I am your host this evening. My name's Jamie. You'll recognise me from most weeks. We have lost Mason this week, unfortunately, but I do have a couple of stunning guests with me. It's always good to have Colin back. Colin, how's things?
I'm good, mate. A little bit apprehensive tonight. Mason gave me a good telling to on how tonight should go. I have to be the mediator. Apparently, there's a big game south of the border, and used to have to play nice. Mason's words, not mine.
And speaking of being on the best behaviours, John, how's things?
Fuck off. Dear. I'm good, mate. Thank you. Trying weekend, but always a pleasure to be on and chat football.
Good man, thank you very much. So I've put a bit of an agenda together tonight. I'm trying not to cover the Liverpool-Chelsea game too much. I don't want to bore you to death of how my day went. But one of the biggest news is that is probably going around at the moment is the Everton's points appeal. If you have watched, obviously, the highlights in the games, there was Everton were away to Brighton at the weekend that finished 1-1. Pretty hard fought game, to be fair. But keen to get your thoughts on not only the game, but also the fact that they have won their appeal. Now, just to kind of clarify, they weren't appealing the decision of being found guilty because they admitted it. What they were appealing was the length of the punishment. They were dished out a 10-point deduction, and what they were saying is that was probably a bit too harsh. On an appeals, that's now went through an appeals team, and they've reduced it to a 6-point reduction. So that's gaining 4 points back. That's a massive big 4 points they brought back in for them. Colin, what's your thoughts on the game and obviously the decision that's impacting the rest of the table?
It was a really good point for Everton. I really fancied Brighton to kick into gear, and at home, I thought they were going to win comfortably, and that's what McCoom said. And it's all commentators' curse when it comes to me, man. I've not won a Coombs since last summer. But no, fair play to Everton. They dug it out. They limited to. Brighton had a few chances, but there was no too very many clear cut, and I think that was down to how Everton just snuffed it out. And then when they, when they went 1-0 up and Billy Gilmore gets sent off, Claire sending off, I thought that was a Sean Dyche type game, a game that was really suit Everton, where it's just backs to the wall. And I thought they were going to see out. That chance Brighton had at the end, the smash, but then that didn't go in, so I thought Everton were safe. But no. I thought Everton maybe a wee bit hard done by, and then just how the second half went, but point overall is probably a fair result.
And on the points that have been obviously put back on Everton, what was your thoughts on that? Do you think that was the right outcome? Do you think it was harsh to begin with, or?
I think you need to take it in context. Everton have been made the scapegoat here. I think we'll know if it's harsh or not when we see how many million points Man City gets. If Man City end up playing in the Vanarama League next season, then it's probably going to look quite light. But I don't know. It's hard to say just on the one club. From a neutral point of view, I kind of wanted the full whack, so there was maybe a wee bit more excitement in the relegation battle because it's looking very clear cut for the bottom two. But no, it's hard to say that now. 10 points, 6 points, it means nothing if it's just Everton.
Johnnie, I know you watched the actual game, and you've called it a couple of times now that you're a big fan of the lad Branthwaite. And he was a big part of how they got away with that result at the weekend. Keen to get your thoughts on the game and obviously the outcome of the appeal as well.
The game, to be honest with you, I thought Everton were the better team, probably for about 70 minutes of that game. Maybe even more than that. Brighton never really turned up to the last maybe 15, 20 minutes tops. I thought Everton they done quite well. The red card obviously didn't help Brighton. It was a bit of a dull one, to be honest. I'm not going to say too much in it because you're just going to liken it to Casiezo, so I'll just leave it at that. He doesn't need to make the tackle, to be honest, but it's still a good point. I thought it was still a good point for Everton, mate. It's not like Colin said, I think a lot of people fancied Brighton, probably comfortably, but I mean they are kind of scatty and hot and cold. We've seen that countless times this season already. But I mean, Everton are just such a tough team to play against, especially if you're a team that plays free-flowing football and tries to get the ball moving a lot. I think you're going to have a hard time against Everton. It's probably the more dogged teams that are going to have find it a wee bit easier against them. I thought that was the case at the weekend. But yeah, I mean, a good point, probably a decent point for both of them. I think if Brighton are honest, they were probably lucky to get a point. The deduction, mate, the reimbursement of points. I suppose it depends on what comes of the second blast and when it comes. So, if I'm being honest with you, even with the deduction they got, and now they've gave them that, they've given them a bit of leeway and gave them some points back. If they get another hit, say 6 points, the way the other teams are, I think they'll still be fine. Which is probably one of the, it's a bit of a shitty part about it because they're supposed to be getting punished, and because of the state of Burnley, Sheffield, and you've got about another 5 teams down there that are all in the same zone. I think Everton are going to be absolutely fine.
Yeah, and in terms of talking about the points reimbursement, it kind of puts Forest and Brentford back in the quagmire a little bit, doesn't it? Brentford haven't won in the last 3. I think Forest have got 1 win in the last 3, but Everton's get the 2 of them now. Everton are sitting on 25 points. Luton are sitting third bottom with 20 points. So that was probably more devastating to Luton than it was to anybody else because it kind of puts them back in it.
I think they probably expected that, all the clubs below. Let's be honest, if this punishment is put in place and this is what you've done, this is in black and white, we've caught you, you made a boo-boo, that's your deduction, then why even consider an appeal in the first place? Yeah. I think that was probably expected that they would get that deduction and they would have a successful appeal. Mm-hmm. So I think the clubs around probably expected that, mate. I don't think that would have been a huge shock to them. And the other clubs around, I agree with them, with Colin, that Man City, even if we drag Chelsea into that and whoever else, it would be the ideal world. They would all be done at the same time if we're talking about fairness. But because of the severity of the charges against some of these other clubs, it's just not going to happen. We'll be lucky to see Man City punished by 2026, if we're being honest.
That is the estimation, and I think Man City's one's for a completely different scenario. It's obviously a bit diddling the books as opposed to confirming that they have overspent. I think the one thing not that I'm happy that Everton have got points back or anything, but what this does do is brings a bit of clarity of what the benchmark looks like, because Forest have been hit this season, have been found guilty, so you'd expect them to have a 6-point deduction as well now. Everton have been hit with a second one, so you'd expect them to have a 6-point. However, I think there's a bit of legality in it that they can't be done for the same period of time they've just been done for. So Everton's might be, shall we say, not as stringent as 6. And I think Nottingham Forest defence is more to do with they spent 2 years of the 3-year window within the lower leagues. So shall we say, the bar that they've hit wasn't as high as, say, for example, Everton. So it gives a bit of clarity on what it does look like. But I'm with you. I don't see, if they go in the current timeline, Everton and Nottingham Forest hearings are due to be, I think they're due to be heard around about the 9th of March. So if they hear them, then they've got an appeal process, which you could drag it into the end of April, by which time you're talking about the season wrapping up. So this could actually be done in the close season. And I think the Premier League are in probably a more dangerous predicament that if the league was wrapped up and done, and then they were hit with points deductions, which mean, for example, Luton might go down on the last day of the season if they manage to stay up, if that makes sense. It looks as though it's going to get a little bit messy, in my opinion. Colin, you were going to say something there?
No, it was that point you were going to make. I mean, we're talking about both ends of the table. Man City, I mean, like it looks as if it's got to go down to the wire. Like, so do you crown champions? Do you wait until the hearings? It's got to be an anticlimax. It's just going to. It seems very.
I think City's one's going to take a year to go through the courts. I really do, because they're talking about the amount of stuff that's involved, the amount of witnesses, the amount of defence. You're talking that's probably going to take like a year process from start to finish of that going through some sort of court.
It's like a season-long version of a VAR goal, waiting to see if it actually gets the green light.
Do I celebrate? Do I not celebrate?
Don't. Yeah.
Okay, well, I wanted to talk about that first because obviously we've been talking about the points deduction for some weeks now, and we've kind of got some clarity to what that looks like, and it has made a difference to the league. As Colin pointed out, there was obviously a big game in the weekend calendar, and it was the first English team. The first English Cup decided over the weekend. Liverpool ran out 1-0 winners, needed full-on injury time and extra time. Very, very close to penalties. Colin, did you manage to get to see the game? What was your thoughts on it?
Just the highlights, Jamie. But it sounds silly. Like, by all accounts, quite an exciting 0-0 draw. Is that fair to say? Like, usually think about exciting, decent games, and you think goals, but both teams made it a good final. The neutral in me is heartbroken that it didn't go to penalties. I adore watching penalties when it's not Rangers, and that's what detest it when it is. But no, it'll be interesting to see the impact this has for both teams now. I'm sure you'll touch on it from a Chelsea point of view. I was really interested to does this really kickstart this season almost and really give tangible results to the progress that we're waiting for Pochettino to make. And from a Liverpool point of view, is that the first of the golden sweep for Jurgen Klopp's last season? So obviously it's a latter, so it'll be interesting to see how both of them move on. Also, Liverpool's got a big game on Wednesday. Then the Cup, will they have the anticlimax? Will they have the hangover from it, or will they keep going?
And didn't come with its cost, did it? The injuries.
I was going to come to that. Like the injuries, the young players. It's Harvey Elliott and no played about 100 odd games.
Yeah,
is one of them like 25? Like, at what point did we stop saying they're young players?
So I don't think it's them players that they're talking about. If you look at the players that they brought on, you've got Conor Bradley. Probably the best way to define young players is the amount of first team minutes between them all. Take Harvey Elliott out. I'm not counting Harvey Elliott. I'm looking at Jane Dance, Jack McConnell, Bobby Clark. Conor Bradley's had a few games recently. There was so much youth that Liverpool were having to bring on because they don't have the squad in depth. I know there was a narrative kicking about of obviously Levi Colwell's 20 years old and he's still a youngster, Casado, and so they're only 21, 22. I think the definition is probably more about first team minutes compared to the opposition. Is my take on it. Johnnie, I know you've obviously got a few things, and we've not spoken since the final. Without using profanities, what's your thoughts on the game and how it panned out? Are you still poaching or?
For me, Jamie, I'm still in the same mentality or the same opinion that there is no point in changing as to where they are. I said this weeks ago a few times that I know that Poch is not a serial winner, but what they need is somebody in place with their plan. Not the club's plan, not what they expect to see. This is what we're looking to build. This is what we need you to do. What he wants to do. What he thinks that club needs and how to build it. They've never done that. It's exactly what Liverpool done with Klopp. Liverpool stopped trying to have managers build to what their vision was and asked Klopp, what do you want to build? What do you want to see? And that's what he done. It didn't start off well. It wasn't all roses, but he got there. That's what they need along that line. So no, I don't think Santon's the right answer. I know there's probably got to be a lot of people, and there is frustration and there is red flags, of course there is. But I just don't see how that would help. And plus, the financial side of it anyway, I'm still not convinced they can afford it, as in terms of financial fair play.
Yeah.
The actual game. Sorry, on you go.
No, sorry, I was clearing my throat.
No, the actual game. Trying to be as diplomatic as possible. I didn't think there was anything in the game. I thought there was a stupid amount of chances. Looking at it from a Chelsea perspective, Conor Gallagher could have had a hat-trick easily. And for me, personally, the best player on the pitch was Keller. I thought he was outstanding. And that's not saying that's because Chelsea were great. I'm not coming from that point of view. I'm just saying they had a really good game. But Chelsea can only blame Chelsea. They had all the chances to win that game if they wanted to do it. They never took any of them. They were toothless when it came to the final cut. The middle of the park again, Caicedo and Enzo were dog shit. They got bullied. They got bullied by young lads with very, very little experience. Now, the whole young thing, like men versus boys and all the Bottlejobs for Gary Neville, that's all the horse shit, because that takes away from what Liverpool managed to do. That's like saying Liverpool fucked it rather than just saying, Chelsea fucked it rather than well done Liverpool, right? So I don't buy into that. Now, they did have the chances. You could call it Bottlejob, or you could just say Liverpool were stronger and overcame it. And that's where I come from, which pains me to say it, but that's just the way it is. I thought the young lads for Liverpool done excellent. Chelsea tried to rile them, get in their heads, especially young Bradley. Never let any of it phase them. That takes a strong character at that age to do that. Chelsea do have a very young team too. I wrote them all down today, but I'm not going to rattle them off. But there's a bunch of them all very early 20s. It's a huge game for them too. A lot of them first finals and first sniff at that, a game of that magnitude. So there was a lot of pressure on both. Liverpool just dealt with it better. Wrapping it, my biggest thing that pissed me off was Van Dijk. They got away with that disallowed. No, they got away with the disallowed goal, right?
Yeah.
Now, you can complain about it and say it should have been a goal and that. End of the day, the rules are that's a foul. The problem doesn't come from that being a foul. The problem comes from there's zero consistency in that rule. You'll see that 5 times next weekend not given. And you might see it 5 times the weekend after given. That's where the problem comes from, hence why Liverpool were pissed off, and rightly so. So they've got a warning. That's what he's going to do. They're going to hit that run every time. Van Dijk's going to power through, and you're going to struggle to stop him. Then you do it again. How do they lose again? It's a carbon copy. It's almost a reflection of the goal that was disallowed. And that was my biggest needle for the whole thing. And then Potts comes out at the end and he was like, were you prepared for penalties? We didn't really prepare for penalties. We didn't expect it. Just stop it. Give that man help. What the hell kind of thing is that to say for a cup final?
So, why would you say that? I mean, it's...
I don't get it, mate.
Very defeatist, isn't it?
I'll just say the generic bullshit. We always prepare for every scenario.
We did not prepare for penalties. We did not expect it to go that far. The game should have went to penalties. I'm not saying Chelsea should have won, but it looked like that's the way it was going. But I take my hats off, mate. They got it done, so fair play.
I was going to ask quick questions, Colin. I'll come to you first. Johnny's already kind of alluded. There was 2 big instances in the game where VAR decided to get involved and VAR didn't get involved. The first one being the challenge on Ryan Gravenberch by Moises Caicedo. The ref didn't even give a free kick. But on hindsight, Gravenberch now went off with a cruciate ligament damage and had to be stretchered off the pitch, and is more than likely going to be missing for the next few weeks. What was your thoughts on that? I suppose really why I'm asking, not coming from a Liverpool point of view, but I know when you slow it down, it looks worse, but it actually looked worse. It actually looked really bad in real time, in my opinion. And I was surprised that VAR didn't get involved in that one, considering, as Johnny said, some of the decisions that we've seen week in and week out that, foot over the ball, if you like, straight onto the, a straight ankle.
I don't really like putting too much emphasis on the whole it looks worse when you slow it down or it looks different, because nobody, that is almost one argument that it's always going to look terrible when you slow it down. But in real time, I don't think we put enough gravitas on the fact that when you're moving at speed, that it takes less to impact a moving object. You know what I mean? Like, we talk about, and I don't want to give some of the theatrics I buy. But one example is if a winger's running at full pelt in the wing, it doesn't take much of a nick to throw him off his side and fall down. If he was running slower, then you'd need to barge him to get him to fall down. It's the same with these tackles as well. So I think a lot of the time it looks like a nick, game's gone. But it should be. I think we need to take it in the context of where that tackle's landed on the leg. I've kind of went off on a tangent there because that's not a scenario here at all. I think it's, but it's just when you said the slowing down. I mean, that's why I mentioned that. I'm shocked that it didn't go to the VAR. Honestly, wild and without sounding like just generic fucking match of the day and fucking. It's just consistency us fans want into. We don't. I think we're all reasonable enough to say that these mistakes will happen, but it's how often these mistakes happen. This is the Premier League we're talking. This is the best league in the world with the best paid refs and the best technology. You don't expect that level of inconsistency.
Yeah. Johnnie, you've obviously mentioned the Van Dijk header that was ruled out, and it was ruled out for apparently Endo, shall we say, impeding Levi Colwell's run. Were you surprised that one was given, or, as you said in the letter of the law, it was a foul?
I was surprised that it was disallowed. I genuinely was, but it is the rule, is what I'm saying. I don't like it. I think it's dog shit, and I don't think it's consistent at all. It's it's the exact same as defenders who pull shots in the box, right? It's supposed to be an automatic foul, but it's not enforced. They enforce it when they decide, whenever it pleases, they enforce it. I'd say maybe 60-70% of the time they don't enforce that rule. That rule is the exact same. So yeah, I don't think it was a bad obstruction or anything like that, mate. I really don't. If it was given, I would not have complained. I'll put it that way. The red card, genuine. Honestly, trying to be as impartial, which isn't easy, but I am trying my best. I thought it was one of those oranges, which is cliche, I know, but I thought it was somewhere in the middle.
Here we go. You're gonna start calling for a blue card, aren't you?
No. It's one of those ones where if I'm a Liverpool fan, I want him sent off. If I'm an opposite, I don't. Which obviously I'm going to say, but I say at the time, I grit my teeth, and more so because Caicedo, he's been like that for months. It's not vindictive; it's just mistimed and sloppy, and he's done that a lot. The only thing I think is his saving grace with that tackle is it's very low on the foot. Now he does catch him. I'm not saying he doesn't. It's very low, and if you watch the replay, his eyes are nowhere but the ball. He doesn't even know but his leg is going in that way. He's not looking there at all. He's following the track of the ball. I think there was no intent. That's what I'm looking for. Now, but I mean, if it went and they sent him off, I couldn't have had many complaints. You know what I mean? I'm somewhere in between the two, and that's just maybe I'm being deadly honest with that. But yeah, that was the thoughts, mate. So maybe a bit of justice for Liverpool in the end, but that's just the breaks.
Yeah. I think one of the big things you touched on it, Kelleher was absolutely outstanding. Some of those point blank saves, really Chelsea strikers should be scoring those. So how Kelleher gets on some of them, even I have my head in my hands at times. I think both teams hit the post. I think Gakpo hit the post in the first half, and I think Gallagher hit the post in the second half, didn't he? It was super, super close. It could have went either way. Well. Sorry, Palmer it was. I think I said on Friday's podcast, Colin, that Liverpool never win a cup the easy way. It's always hard. They don't like Wembley. The pitch is always too big. For some reason, we always end up with penalties when it comes to Chelsea. So yeah, your neutral point of view, I hope it going to Chelsea. I was praying it wasn't because I just couldn't put myself through it. If anybody remembers the last set of penalties, it went all the way down to the goalkeepers, and Azpilicueta skied it. I wasn't mentally capable of handling that on Sunday. Intoxicated, but yeah, I needed that game to be done and dusted. So, and a big shout out for Wataru Endo. I think he's been brilliant this season. He's gone completely under the radar because he went away to the Asia Cup, but he's kind of slotted in that number 6 role, and he's added that third line of defence and allowing people like McAllister to play a bit more forward. I think Johnny touched on it that Enzo and Caicedo didn't really have any say in the game, and I think it's arguably down to people like Endo. He was top.
It was down to
notch.
Endo. What
Yeah.
did he cost? Was it 18 million or something?
I think it was like 17 million with add-ons. He was the Stuttgart captain,
Yeah.
and I remember a lot of journals were saying possibly one of the best signings of the window, because it completely went unnoticed when Liverpool tried to get Caicedo, in the last minute, 115 million, and never got him. So this was quite easily the second or third player that we were going for, but he's just come in and he's slotted. His first couple of months, I think he was very lightweight. He kept giving the ball away. He was getting muscled out, but he's obviously noticed that he needs to muscle on a little bit, and he's starting to control that centre circle. And Liverpool fans are really, really enjoying him right now.
They couldn't get in the game. Neither Caicedo or Enzo could get in that game.
Mm-hmm.
And I said that, I was talking to a friend yesterday, I said I put a hell of a lot of it down to Endo. He marshalled that midfield. But then that was one other thing I wrote down with Poch is why persist every week with Enzo and Caicedo? Why not rotate somebody and try somebody else when they're getting bossed that easily? Because that's not just that weekend, that's happening every other weekend.
Yeah.
I don't know what to drag that out of it, but yeah, Endo played well, mate.
Cool. So yeah, we won the first cup. Yay, done. Klopp on tour. 1 out of 4. Let's go. I'll move on. I'll leave it at that. Colin, it's hard not to move on without alluding to another rampant Arsenal win. I know you love a bit of a match of the day, but it probably would have been over within 30 seconds because they come out the traps, didn't they? And Newcastle just shrank.
Arsenal were excellent. They were, and again, like I keep on making the comparisons for last year when before Arsenal were in a title race, and they were finding ways to get over the line. And the big debate was, is that the sign of champions or is that the sign of cracking? But with Arsenal, it's a completely different way they've approached the new year. They're so good to watch. They're so aggressive in the attack, and I thought all their goals came really well. Also, the first goal and on goal, but that's Arsenal's 18th goal for a set piece this season, and it's no quite. If you think about Arsenal, where they're quick play in a transition, you don't really. You don't really think about them as strong in set pieces. That's usually a more industrious side you would label that way, but. No, I thought Arsenal were excellent. Newcastle, to be fair. I think we're just becoming to expect them as kind of running the mill this year, which is a shame considering the season they had last year. But no, that must be about 20 goals in the last 5 games for Arsenal.
I think they scored something like 35 this year alone, which is in all competitions, which is mental. Johnny, Arsenal are playing Sheffield United this weekend. You wouldn't put it past there being another 4-5, would you?
No, mate. They are. They just seem to have this ruthless streak that's kind of appeared. They were like that at the start of the last season, if you remember, before it kind of went to shit. But especially, we did speak about in the pod that what they seem to lack was the ability, just to sweep a team aside. But that's what they've been doing for weeks now. That first probably 25, 30 minutes is one of the strongest starts I've seen to a game in a long time. They just absolutely flattened them. Newcastle had nothing, no answers. They were chasing shadows. They were only picking up men. It was like once the first couple went in, they were like a rabbit in the headlights. It was like punch drunk. But they're looking excellent, mate. Really good. They're attacking. They're following maybe 5-6 players are just really, really good. I think Rice definitely gives them that extra bit. And I agree with Colin. For set pieces, they are dangerous. He's right. they're such a free-flowing team, you probably don't label them as that. But with Gabriel and Saliba, they're both very powerful central defenders, especially in recent weeks. Gabriel's been causing havoc up there, and he done the same again at the weekend. I expected a wee bit more from Newcastle. I didn't think they would win, but yeah, they were excellent, mate. Did you see that stat about Arsenal? They're the first team in Premier League history to score 2 goals in 7 consecutive halves of football. That's wild.
Wow.
Mad, isn't it?
2 goals, 2
That's what
goals,
I mean.
2 goals. Every
You
half.
go back to Christmas time, and we were talking about we don't see where the goals were coming from because they weren't getting. Saka's just decided to start scoring. I think even Havertz is getting goals now.
Jamie,
I would. Sorry, go on.
about
Yeah.
him. Like, if you don't mind.
No,
See,
of
when
course.
Arsenal signed Havertz, sorry, me and Johnny, I'm sure it was, we were saying that it's a good signing, we like him, we think he'll fit in, and I think we all laughed at the fucking podcast. And I think the big criticism was he doesn't bring the goals. So given Havertz's role in this, do you think he's an effective striker? But Arsenal don't rely on him for goals, but they're getting goals for all over the pitch. Do you change your tune on him?
No.
Yeah,
I still think Trossard's better. I think Trossard's offered a better goal threat. What I do think is that they're not using him as a striker. They're using him probably more as a link-up man between the midfield and the strikers, or the wingers, if you like. So he's not like an out-and-out number 9 up the top. He's probably coming a bit. Do you remember the old Bobby Firmino role where he would come deep and allow the wingers to get around him? I think he's probably doing more of that, which is maybe working for his game. Certainly didn't play that role at Chelsea, and he certainly didn't play that role at Leverkusen. So maybe Arteta's found a new role for him that's probably working for him.
I think though, in the Bundesliga, it's a different ballgame, mate. It's a different league. You can get away with that much slimmer frame and flourish, whereas in the Premier League, it's so easy to get bullied. So yeah, I think he does drop him in a wee bit. He has improved. Well, in terms of goal threat, he has improved. But I think a big part of that as well is how much Arsenal have improved in general in that area.
Yeah.
They're creating a hell of a lot of chances. But you've got to be in the right place at the right time. I would agree with that. But then you've still got Gabriel Jesus to come back as well. Is he going to be, is he going to hold his place? Are they going to switch it back up again? Because they were playing slightly different shape when they had Jesus back in the team.
Yeah. And a quick mention on Newcastle now, because that's them dropped to 10th. And I think it's fair to say, Colin, that when we were doing our early predictions of the season finishings, nobody necessarily had Newcastle winning the league, but we all didn't have them in 10th position right now, would we?
No, what's been really worrying about them, and I know we're going to repeat the conversation about the injuries and stuff they've got, but they should be good enough to be firmly in the European contention. We all said that them adapting to midweek football and having to balance the European games with domestic games, but they're long out of Europe, they've been long gone, and I think I'm surprised. I thought Eddie Howe would be able to get more out of the players he's got left. I mean, it's still not a bad lineup. I don't think they're doing themselves justice. They're definitely not showing to be the sum of the parts. And I wonder at what point do we start to have a conversation about Eddie Howe moving on in the summer? Will the Newcastle owners be as cutthroat as what maybe Man City or Chelsea were in the early stages of the rebuild? I don't think they would have been expecting to be 10th in February. Right now, if I have to put money on it, I don't see them getting European football next year, and that's definitely no in the long-term plan for Newcastle.
Johnny, it's fair to say that Newcastle have got a lot of injuries this season, and probably the one that doesn't get spoken about enough is Nick Pope. They lost him quite early in the season. They've had to play with the backup keeper and Dubravka. I was quite surprised though when they brought in Larius Karius, the ex-Liverpool goalkeeper, for the Arsenal game. Now, I don't necessarily hold him responsible for the goals that were going in, but it seemed a bit of a strange one, didn't it?
Yeah, I would agree, mate. I mean, I think Dubravka's a very, very different keeper to Pope. Pope's way better. I think Dubravka's a good shot stopper. He's good on his line, but he rarely comes out and commands that box, whereas Pope covers all those aspects and he does it well. That's definitely, I mean, you can't put everything on that. But as a part, why he was dropped, if it was dropped, I think, was he on the bench? I actually never checked that.
I think he was on the bench, yeah, because he's back in the squad for tonight's FA Cup game.
Right. Well, no idea why, mate. But I think you have to give them a wee bit slack, because although we do, I know we have spoke about the injuries, but they've had horrific injuries. At one point, it was virtually their entire first team defence was out, barring maybe one, and it's something that's continued through the season. I don't know what he's got them doing, but it can't be good. I think as well, we definitely spoke about it pre-season, but the European factor would have an effect. I think they're getting a bit of a knock-on for that. I know they're out now, but I think that's definitely had a wee bit of a toll on it. Maybe a wee bit stepping too far too soon, and I don't think they have the squad for it. Even without the injuries, I think their squad's quite thin, especially if they're fighting on all those fronts. That's something they're going to look to improve if they can afford to improve.
I take the points about the injury, but I still think that even with this squad, they should be beating Luton in Bournemouth. You know, I mean, that's 4 points that would have taken them up to like above Brighton. I get it. They won't be running toe to toe with the top six, maybe, but they should be beating the teams lower than them comfortably. I think.
I think it's more their inability to keep a clean sheet at the moment that's probably worrying. Because you go back to last year, and they did so well. And I know we said Nick Pope's obviously not there, but they've still got Trippier, they've still got Shaw, they've still got Botman, they've still got Dan Bunn. Dan Bunn's looked a bit sceptical the last few weeks. He's been turned by pace by pretty much all the teams. But yeah, I think Newcastle have got it rough at the moment, and if I'm not mistaken, their next game, they're at home to Wolves. So, as a Geordie fan, you're going to be expecting them to pick up 3 points there, and then they're away to Chelsea, and I think they go on a start of a few dodgy games. So I don't think Eddie Howe is going to get the bullet anytime soon, but I'm with you, Colin. I don't think he'll be there next year. I really don't.
Jimmy was calling him out last year for the Christmas sacking. Do you mind that? As soon as you said the ability there, he started rubbing his hands. Did you see?
I'm just actually looking back in terms of Premier League games, and I apologise if you mentioned this, Jamie. I might have just zoned out, but their last clean sheet was.
I think they've had 2 this year. Yeah.
No, they've had FA Cup, but a league clean sheet, if I'm reading this right, is Fulham on the 16th of December last year.
That's mad, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
There has not been a. That is.
And that's what I mean. That's a massive big change compared to what they were doing last season. You can argue that obviously Joel Linton's not fit, Callum Wilson's not fit, Almiron's been in and out of that team, but they don't do the defending that you would anticipate Newcastle to be putting up a shall we say, a more solid display.
That's ridiculous. I never realised it was that bad.
There was loads of goals, Colin, in the Villa Forest game. Finished 4-2. Ollie Watkins grabbed himself another goal. Villa just doing what we said, aren't they? They're kind of holding on to that 4th spot. They'll win a couple of games, they'll lose a couple of games, and as long as they've got that distance between them and Tottenham, I don't think they'll be that worried, will they?
No, they don't. They won't be worried. Again, that home record's just amazing. It really is. And everything we were saying about Arsenal, just how early Villa will go and take the game and put the game to bed. It was excellent on the weekend there. Obviously the Forest getting a couple of goals back, but this is the difference between them and the likes of Newcastle. And I know maybe being apple and oranges there, but Villa ended up with a 5th or 6th choice centre backs playing it, and they didn't capitulate. Again, they find a way to play to their strength still and get the goals. But Villa, they're comfortable. They're comfortable in the European spot, mainly because what I said last week. Spurs or Man U behind them don't have the ability to get these results on a consistent basis. Villa can.
Yeah. Johnny, just a couple of words then for Douglas Luiz. He's scored his 9th Premier League goal of the season, which is arguably his best ever season in terms of goals and assists. I think he's on 9 Premier League goals and 4 assists at the moment. It's not bad for a defensive midfielder, isn't it?
I talked to him about Douglas Luiz, and you know why. Shithouse. Sorry, Colin. He beat me in a fantasy sports game. I tried to sign Douglas Leeds at the weekend. I really fancied him. I forgot Jamie is one place below me, so he gets the pip on the transfer. Stole it. I couldn't see who it was till that goal went, and I went, I wonder who got him, and it's that shithouse. Anyway, yeah, he's doing it. He's doing really well, mate. And as you say, he's doing it for a fairly defensive midfield role. I mean, he's on penalties as well, which is helping.
Yeah.
But even at the weekend, his goals were excellent. It's quite bizarre, considering they have a hell of a lot of threat in that team. You would expect the goals to come elsewhere. But they all seem to be chipping in. And the guy we keep giving plaudits to as well, Leon Bailey, was outstanding at the weekend again. So I suppose when you've got those kind of players that are creating the threat around you, it's maybe a wee bit easier to get in the goals. But no, you can only give credit to that, mate. He's having a cracking season, probably his best season in the Premier League, yeah.
Yeah. Colin, that brings us on to my favourite game of the weekend, was Manchester United 1, Fulham 2. Now, obviously,
why that was your favourite.
But do you know what? I was about to explain that, actually. That, not only was it just the result, but I'm kind of bemused with some of the comments from the Manchester United managerial at the end of it, with, stating that they should have won the game, that they controlled the game. I don't remember watching that in highlights. Now, I know obviously I've got a biased opinion, but I'm keen to get your thoughts on how you felt that game went and what the outcome of that was.
This shouldn't be a Man U conversation. This should be all about film. Film were excellent. I thought, I don't understand how you come away thinking that Man U deserved to win that. I thought Fulham were deserved winners. I don't know, maybe he's thought about how much of the ball they had, but even then, it was just over half. They didn't dominate possession. I thought Fulham were really, really good. And again, just what I was saying about the difference between Villa and the teams below them, it's just they always seem like they're never that far away from being a basket case, and Man U showed that as well. Lovely to see Big Calvin. That boy just absolutely warms my heart for so many reasons. Really, really tough to see him get in the score sheet, because he didn't settle in. He's not fully settled in how we wanted him. Sometimes he has had the odd bombs here and there. I still think there's a conversation if he's right and if he's best suited to playing left side of a two centre back pair, and I think he's best in the left back three or left back actually. I think he still positionally gets caught under the ball more than he should, but no, pleased for him. Also, he had a good tournament in AFCON and getting the opening goal as well.
Johnny, a couple of points to cover. Me and you obviously had a conversation before the Man U game kicked off, because the announcement was that Rasmus Højlund, who is arguably one of the informed strikers of the league at the moment, would be missing for a couple of weeks, and we were questioning obviously one of our prediction for the game, and you alluded to the fact that actually Fulham were going into that game without their best player, Paulinho, who had accrued another booking. So he was missing the game. Didn't really miss him though, did they? Boys like Andres Pereira, the ex-Man United player, they all stepped up. The boy Muniz up front, even though he didn't get a goal, he absolutely dogged, bullied some of those defenders around.
Yeah, mate. I did not expect it. I thought, to give credit, I'll give Jamie credit where it's due. He actually called 2-1 Fulham. He done it again. That was before that game. It's another thing I didn't like admitting, but he did call it. The result, when you look at the course of the game, mate, 100% agree. Fulham worth every bit of their points, mate. They played really well. Man United had wee spells, but that was really it. One thing I will say about Man United was Harry Maguire had me in stitches. I don't know how much attention you paid to Harry Maguire's game, but he was involved in everything, good or bad. It was crunch and tackle, gets himself out. He was diving in the box, trying to win penalties. And when a guy like 6'7" is trying to play out for a penalty, one of the funniest things you're going to see. He gets up, gets a goal, was given away offside, standing offside. It was just constantly, even the highlights, it was just all about slaphead. And credit to Iwobi. I'm not his biggest fan in terms as a player, but he done really well. At the end, to be fair, he should have scored early on. He had a cracking chance really early in that game. He didn't even hit the target. It was hard that he actually missed the target, but he redeemed himself. So, I mean, it's good points for Fulham, mate. And yeah, Ten Hag's comments. Yeah, Sheffield, we were excellent. We played well. We deserved the win. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You stopped that. Tavernier as well. Unlike his namesake, he just couldn't find the goal. He was getting involved in everything, no? Not Tavernier, shut up, John. Bassey. He did get his goal. But yeah, I mean, it was a good game, mate. I mean, we've talked about before how Man United are going to go through this spell. I think it was Mason and I were discussing it last week, a week before, that we weren't convinced by Man United. Man United will pick up, they'll go on this run, and then they're going to blow up at some point and have this result that you don't expect. You have Rashford, who looks completely disinterested. He never chased back, he wasn't tracking, and this is a young lad who's been brought in the youth system. You think he would be doing everything to try and drag them out. He just looked completely disinterested, and you can put a lot of them in that bracket, mate.
The Bruno video was a bit damning, isn't it? The Bruno video of him diving, looking for a free kick and rolling about the pitch and waiting for the ref to look at him. That didn't look really good at all.
Yeah, I didn't notice it till after the game, mate. I actually seen that on social media. But yeah, that's bad. I mean, I understand you want to do everything to try and get something for the game, but we know Bruno can be a bit of a shit house, mate. And they really got to take it on the chin. But I think with Ten Hag, he needs to come out and just sometimes say, look, we were not at it, and Fulham were way better. And you probably have a wee bit more respect for him.
Well, I'm going to follow that because I've actually got a question regarding this. Is kind of what I was leading up to. Is that, you know, when you look at it, Man United are a bit of a tricky stage at the moment where they've obviously got the investments. You've got the Ineos team that are looking after the operations. So these people are going to be making decisions on who the manager is, who the structure of the team looks like, and so forth. So there still has to be a question of whether Ten Hag is their actual man. And the reason why I'm asking that is that, you know, they must have some idea of what they're going to do by now. Do they stick or do they twist? And the reason why I'm bringing it up is that if they stick until the end of the season, I feel they're going to catch themselves in a bit of a whirlwind, because if you look at over this summer, the managerial vacancies or merry-go-round that's going to go on. You've got Klopp, for example, leaving Liverpool, so Liverpool are in the market for a new manager. Barcelona have confirmed that Xavi's going to be moving away, so Barcelona are going to be looking for a new manager. Nagelsmann's going to be leaving the German national team. You've got all these little pockets of managers that are ultimately going to be. The Bayern Munich Tuchel's confirmed to be leaving. You've now got PSG potentially going to be losing that. There's all this high end. What is it? This is probably the best window of transfer managers that you're going to see ever in terms of a shuffle round. If Man United wait for that window, I can't help but think they're going to get left behind, and they're going to be left with, for example, like a Jose Mourinho coming back to the club. If you were Ineos, are you sticking with Ten Hag, or are you trying your hardest to do what you can now? Colin, I'll go with you first.
I think you need to look long term. I don't think Ten Hag is long term. I think Man U just need a full reset. I don't think he's the man to do it. Full change of ethos, a change of the core players that they have, and no, I think he's too battle scarred. He's been close to the sack too many times, according to the fans. It's hard to choose start anew with that. So I think they need to look elsewhere. All these big, sexy, glamorous names that you've named is who they're going to go for. I don't think they'll get them because they're not the loyal that they were 10, 15 years ago. The Liverpool job will be the most attractive in England in the summer. And then all these managers leaving their places. I mean, you'll probably see someone will replace each other. Unai Emery, somebody like that, is the perfect manager for Man U in the summer, but he's off his nut to go to Man U. Why would you leave a high flying Villa to go in an absolute circus? So I don't know. I think they need to do something, but I don't know what they can do realistically.
Johnny, same question for you, mate.
I think they're very, very similar to where I put Chelsea right now, mate. It's a club that needs, like Colin said, completely overhauled. But what I will say with Man United is we've been saying this longer about them, about so many players that are not at a level of winning Premier Leagues or competing at the very, very top end of the table. They have a lot of players in there who are bottom of the table at best, and they've had those players for a long time. And they've signed more. So do they keep sacking managers? Is it going to be any different? I just don't see it. I don't see how it would change everything. It needs some kind of stability and something in place, as you said, long term. Is that with Ten Hag or is that somebody else? I'm just not convinced somebody else is going to be any better, mate. And that's why I say the same thing about Poch, because I think the problems at Man United are within the club, not the manager. You can put the problems higher up on the board, and I put Chelsea in the exact same bracket. So I think that's what the issues are further up in the boardrooms and wherever else, rather than what's on the pitch. I think the wrong people are making the decisions. Chelsea are the exact same.
So sitting on the fence.
I don't know.
The reason I suppose to counter that, I suppose Chelsea and Manchester United are two different issues. Chelsea, for example, have spent far too much money on young talent that they're hoping comes good, and they need a manager to guide that. Manchester United have spent a lot of money on people that are not going to be there for the next 3 or 4 years. They've actually need to clear out and probably invest again. They're going to have to take a hit on players. So, for example, like your Anthony, there's a lot of talk today that Anthony's going to be shipped out because they've had enough. This is a guy that's not had a single attack in return this season in the Premier League, considering they spent, was it 92 million on him. So, I think similar issue, different. Going into Manchester United, you're hoping for a transfer window to boost what that looks like. Chelsea's probably just trying to get the best out of the players that they've got and trying to come up with a way for them to play. I just fear that Man United. I don't fear. I just think Man United, if they are going to go and ditch Ten Hag, they probably need to do it soon and make clear who their number one target is, because potential that he won't be available for them come the end of the season.
I think there's a high potential that he won't want to go. Like Colin said, it's a dead end right now. It's a dead end job because nobody can make it happen. And I think
on the back of that, excuse me, sorry. On the back of that, there was a lot of media frenzy this afternoon about Rio Ferdinand on a podcast saying that Arteta would drop Arsenal for Manchester United in a heartbeat. I personally don't believe that.
I meant to say this on the when we were talking about Liverpool Chelsea, because we kind of touched on it before we started recording. But what is it which is rolling out the prick at every occasion to Ferdinand? Like for the listeners' benefit, we were talking about Neville Carragher, Boyd Sutton up here, and just instead of talking about the football, you just trying
the sound bites that they're trying.
Yourself. But Neville, Rio Ferdinand probably believes that. He's a fucking idiot.
Sometimes I think they just like stirring shit. It's like the media used to do when they wanted to unsettle players. They still do it today. Unsettle players, unsettle managers. I think it's probably a similar thing. But yeah, that's a pipe dream, mate. That's a pipe dream. But yeah, all I'm trying to say is, mate, I just don't see how changing it will make a difference. Yeah. I mean, I could agree with you. Yeah, maybe they do need to change and try it. But I don't see anybody else
coming in. Everything else goes with it, doesn't it?
I think far too much baggage in that.
Cool. So we'll call it the next Manchester team. So that a quite different result than one we're used to seeing. Bournemouth 0, Manchester City 1, and it was a big win for City, but in probably ways that we're not used to. City scored quite early in the first half, and from what I remember of watching the rest of the game, Bournemouth were all over them and probably should have had an equaliser at least. I think arguably Edison made so many saves that he's probably made in any kind of Premier League game this season. Solanke just needs to sort his shooting boots out a little bit, because, in my opinion, Bournemouth should have got something from that game. The question really is more about, because we've not seen those kind of performances from City in this kind of running, should City fans be worried, or is that to be expected? Just grind out a 1-0, Colin?
I was thinking this myself, and I think don't want to say they were lucky, but Bournemouth will be absolutely kicking themselves they didn't get a goal with the chances they had. And Bournemouth played really well in the second half. And in one hand, you don't want, you probably don't want to overreact. But this is the time of year where City just turn into an absolute different animal, and that's the last 3 games they've only scored 1 goal. And obviously the points are still the same if you score 1 or if you score 9. So the drop points against Chelsea, they would get narrow victories over Brentford and Bournemouth, and at a time when we are just used to seeing the real Pep Guardiola style of football coming in, it's strange. So I don't know if we're just putting them in a different weight of expectation because they're Man City, because they do it so often. Every team is allowed a period of where they just get the job done, where they just take the bins out and nothing else. So I'd say it'd be interesting to see how the derby goes. That's our next game. If I think that's a game to kick you back into life. If you can't find the spark in your local derby, then you probably will be worried.
Johnny, before we obviously call out what the Luton Man City score is right now in the FA Cup, but going back to the game, we talked in the last couple of podcasts that City's ability to call off the bench some absolute superstars this season has been, shall we say, lacking. Was that evident at the weekend? And I mean, talking about the not being able to call on a Mahrez, not being able to call on Gundogan, these kind of players that they lost in the summer. Is that evidence of what we're seeing this kind of City having to do now, or do you just think it was just, going the course?
I think there is an aspect to that. We've discussed it a few times that those players are going to leave a dent, especially at the back end of last season when they dominated everything. Gundogan and Mahrez were huge for Man City. They played a huge part, especially the former. And those are hard players to replace. They do have players there, but I think Grealish would probably be one you would categorise there, but he's been injured. I think that's his first start in quite a while tonight, actually. Haaland, since coming back from injury, hasn't been firing, barring tonight, where I was actually, in my notes, my opening 2 lines was actually giving the meat sheet a bit of pelters for all the chances he's missing, and then he's just rattled in 3 tonight to stop me in my tracks, so I'm not going to read them out. But I think those are probably short term, Jamie. I think, for example, what I just said, the meat sheet is missing a lot of glorious chances. He, that's not going to last forever. He's still in the right places. He's still getting the shots away. It's just not clicking, but it is going to click. We've already seen it. It does happen, like tonight, for example. I think they do lack a wee bit off the bench. Who they've brought in to replace, like the lad Nunez and that, hasn't really got going. Probably a wee bit unfair as well, especially at the weekend, because I thought Bournemouth were really good. And they deserve to get something for that game. And that was my point earlier that I got too eager on my notes with Tavernier, who could have had a couple. And as you say, Solanke probably should have had at least one as well. And Haaland should have had a couple. So, I mean, it could have been a goal fest. But end of the day, when you're champions, you're going to have games like that. You're defending champions, you're looking to do it twice. You are going to have games like that. You're going to have games where you're not at the races. But if you can still get 3 points for that, then end of the day, that's all that matters. Nobody's going to look back on that Bournemouth City game. They're just going to look back on those 3 points. So,
and Johnny, I always like to give you shit for causing jinxes, but Jack Grealish just went off after 38 minutes with an injury. So, well done, Johnny.
Sorry, Jack.
There with your voodoo doll. Sit there with your voodoo doll, praising his comeback.
To be fair, that's after I say that. I just never noticed. All right, okay.
I just had a look to see how they were getting on, and he went off after 38 minutes, and I just seen a sad little face of him on the bench on the TV. So, well done.
That would have been a wee improvement for City's ability to call off the bench, and that's gone again. So maybe you're onto something. I think I'll tell you one thing, mate. With the 3 of them, they're kind of drifting a wee bit about Arsenal, City, and Liverpool, all up there, all fire, and it's refreshing. rather than just having two that have chased away. We're still going strong with the three of them, so it's going to be an interesting run, mate.
I'm slightly worried about our Andrews. We need
You
certain
should be.
people back.
You should
I'm
be
slightly
shitting
worried
yourself.
about Andrews. You can only win so much with kids. Do you know what I mean? We need to get people like Salah and Nunes back and whatnot. But there's a few games still to cover, but I don't want to take up too much more of your time. But I think there is one we should cover, and that was last night's game. Every time David Moyes looks as though he's about to get the sack, West Ham turn into Barcelona. They smashed 4 against Brentford last night with a Jared Bowen hat-trick, who's been arguably missing the last few weeks. But Colin, the news is that David Moyes has apparently been offered a new contract. I can hear Mason's teeth itching from here. That's a bit of a mad one, isn't it?
Aye, wild. But again, like I was laughing, man. Like after my rant last week of West Ham fans,
Stickler twist.
Who do you think you are? And then we invite on a West Ham podcast on a Friday. I was like, I hope to God you've not listened to the last show. But I mean, on Friday, James spoke about just the boring style of football. This was anything but, a proper end-to-end first half of football with West Ham coming away with the spoils in half time,
25 yards.
Then they go and seal the deal, and that's just boring. Like where have you been, mate? Like could have been doing with you in January and December, but no, like this is the absolute. As you say, David Moyes decides, right, no, what I should probably start trying now that people are getting a bit money. And it wasn't a very West Ham-like performance, what I'd say.
Johnnie, obviously we can put all the laudits on David Moyes' tactical genius, but Jared Bowen up to 14 for the season is not a bad return for a guy that just signed like an 8-year contract in the summer. He's obviously going to be there for the foreseeable, but they kind of need him. It kind of feels like if they don't have him firing, then they're not going to get the results that they're looking for. And they also had Paqueta back last night, which is obviously a massive difference to their midfield. We've talked about how key he's been from an attacking point of view for them.
Yeah, mate, I mentioned it last week, but I thought it was really, really going under the radar a wee bit. About how important he is to them. He's huge to West Ham, and I mean, doesn't mean he was the be all and end all of that game, but the proof's in the pudding, mate. It happened with Tony as well. Now I know Brentford aren't exactly firing, but they did improve once Tony came back. Paqueta's back, and I mean they looked excellent. They looked excellent last night. It's just such a bizarre result to what we've been seeing, and I'm a bit sad like that. I look at the underlying numbers and that pretty much mostly for fantasy football, being the sad egg I am, but the numbers for Bowen to actually getting the goals, never mind bang free in, was not even close to reflecting what we see. But talking to jinxes, mate, Brentford can solely blame you because I can direct quote you for last weekend's pod. You said, you know, I can't do your accent because it's up next. You know what they need? They need Jared Bowen fire. Come on, Jared, get in the goals. If he gets in the goals, they'll be fine. So technically, it's your fault.
Well, listen, I think Moyes should stay in the job. I'm Team Moyes in. So if Barron gets him his goals, then that's so forth.
I think I enjoyed seeing it, mate. Seeing as soon as that news broke, I was kind of like, good on you. Because it's like the board doubling down, because it's very, very easy to fold under fan pressure. But I mean, from a business point of view, for a business model and success, they know how well they've done. Yes, they've had a blip, but they're still in a good position in the league, and they're still in Europe. There's not a lot more they can expect. For what their spend is, I think they're probably punching. So, yeah, it might be ugly at times, but if he's bringing you cups like that and you're getting cup runs like that, I don't understand the hate. So good on them.
Yeah, it was definitely one of the most, as I said, after the podcast we did last week and the catch up with the West Ham guy on the podcast, and all of a sudden it was like at the end of the night, David Moyes has been offered a new contract, and you think, oh, he needs a win now, and sure enough, they bang out a 4-2. A quick mention on Brentford then, Johnny, you did touch on it. They've lost the last 3 now. Everton have now joined them on points up to 25. You've got to be worried now, haven't you, for Brentford, sitting 5 points precariously above, Luton's position in 17th.
Yeah, it's fair, mate. I kind of went against that. I don't know if it was last week, week before, but I thought they'd be absolutely fine. To be honest, I expected them to get something last night, at least a point. Didn't see that one coming. For me with Brentford is they have goals in them. They do carry a threat, but defensively they are not great. Right for the midfield, right straight through to the defence, they just seem to be miles off it. So you can have Ivan Toney and even Maupay's chucking in the goals here as well. You can do that, but if you're leaking goals the way they are, I mean, the goals last night was a perfect example. Bowen done really well, taking nothing away, but virtually every goal was easily avoidable. You know, it wasn't like great creative player. That a lot of them are just simple goals, and we're seeing that a lot with Brentford. So yeah, they're kind of an alarming position, mate. I think. Yeah, I've kind of drawn back on my word, mate. I think they are definitely flirting now.
Colin, anything to add on the Brentford?
No, just echoing what Johnnie says. I think I don't know. Are they in trouble? In a normal season, they would be dangerous, but I just don't think the bottom three have it in them to to make this a relegation dogfight. It may be being a wee bit unfair to Luton, but they've not done enough to tell me otherwise. So they may be lucky this year that there's just teams worse than them.
I was probably be the same. I was going to say that the only one when looking at that is for the bottom three is you see Luton possibly. If Brentford continue in the path they're on, but now don't
Still
forget
a 5
Forest.
gap though, isn't it?
Forest are pretty close to but Luton have got a game in hand.
Yeah.
They're
They're going to be praying.
They're
going to be praying that this appeals for the points potential deduction is going to come through before the end of the season, aren't they? Because I think it probably determines their outcome for them. Right, guys, listen. We've managed to wrap up majority of all the games. There is a couple that we've missed, but we will try and pick them up first time on the next podcast. As ever, guys, if you have any questions, if you have any thoughts that you want to portray, then obviously leave and drop us a comment. But on this week, like to say, appreciate it. Thanks very much for coming on, Colin. Always good to get you back. 2 weeks in a row. We are feeling a bit precious.
I know, 2 weeks in a row, so I'm going to fuck off for 4 months, and I'll see you at the start of next season. No, always a pleasure coming on and talking all things EPL. Thanks for having me.
Good man, thank you. And Johnny, thank you as ever. How's things? You looking forward to the weekend?
Yeah, mate. Every weekend's a new challenge. A wee special thank you to Mason, who left Jamie to host tonight on the very week after Liverpool empty Chelsea in a cup final. What a gem of a lad he is. No, thanks for hosting me, and as always, thanks for having me. Pleasure.
To be fair, today's probably the first day my head's not been so sore after it. So yeah, I'll take that. But thanks very much, listeners. Speak to you later.